Chapter 1. If your twin flame disappeared tomorrow, who would you be? Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow morning, the light from your window breaking into your room, and you reach for your phone, only to see silence. No messages, no notifications, no trace of the person you've been thinking about day and night. That one person who feels like your other half. That one person whose presence feels like fire and home at the same time. That one person you've been calling your twin flame. Now here's the question. If they were gone, vanished from your life without a word, would you still recognize yourself? This is not just a dramatic opening for a video. It's a real possibility many people secretly fear on the twin flame journey. Deep inside, many ask themselves, what if they never come back? What if I lose them forever? And beneath those questions hides something even bigger. Without them, am I still whole? The paradox of twin flames. The twin flame concept is powerful, magnetic, intoxicating. It draws you in like gravity itself. People describe it as meeting the other half of their soul. And in many ways that description makes sense because the connection feels so different, so raw, so unshakable. But here's the paradox. When you start believing that your twin flame is your missing piece, you unknowingly put yourself in chains. You hand over your freedom, your identity, and sometimes even your sanity to a bond that was never meant to enslave you. So let me ask you again. If your twin flame disappeared tomorrow, who would you be? Would you collapse into emptiness, or would you stand tall, knowing that your wholeness was never dependent on anyone outside of yourself? Why this question matters. Maybe you're wondering, why do I even need to think about this? I know my twin flame will never leave me. The connection is eternal. Yes, the connection is eternal, but the human relationship? That's a different story. People walk away. People get scared. People run. That's why the twin flame journey is filled with phases of separation and reunion. And during those phases, what often gets exposed is our dependence. Dependence on their presence to feel safe. Dependence on their validation to feel worthy. Dependence on their attention to feel alive. If that's the foundation of your love, then the connection, no matter how cosmic it feels, is built on shaky ground. Dependency disguised as devotion. Here's where it gets tricky. From the outside, it might look like pure devotion. You're thinking of them constantly. You want to know how they're doing, what they're feeling, what they're posting online. You justify it by saying, it's because the bond is so strong. I just can't help it. But let's be honest for a second. Is it really devotion? Or is it dependency? Is it truly unconditional love? Or is it fear of abandonment wearing the mask of love? Dependency shows up in subtle ways. When your mood rises and falls entirely based on their texts or silence. When you abandon your hobbies, passions, or friendships because they don't involve your twin flame. When you secretly feel like you have no identity without them. That is not devotion. That is losing yourself. The mirror of the twin flame. And here's the irony. The very reason your twin flame came into your life is not to make you lose yourself, but to help you find yourself. Twin flames are mirrors. They show you what's hidden inside. They reflect both your light and your shadows. And when dependency surfaces, what the mirror is really revealing is this. There is a wound inside you that still believes, I am not whole on my own. And until you face that wound, until you heal it, the connection will feel less like love and more like obsession. Less like freedom and more like chains. The trap of you complete me. Think of all the love stories we've been fed since childhood. The movies, the novels, the fairy tales. How many times have you heard the phrase, you complete me? It sounds romantic, doesn't it? But hidden underneath is a dangerous message, that you are incomplete without someone else. Now, when you apply that belief to a twin flame bond, it amplifies everything. Suddenly the stakes feel cosmic. You're not just afraid of losing a partner. You're afraid of losing your soul's other half. But here's the truth. Your twin flame does not complete you. They reflect you. They don't fill your emptiness. They reveal where you still believe you are empty. And the purpose is not to stay empty until they arrive. The purpose is to see the wound and to fill yourself with your own light, your own wholeness. A candle and its flame. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a candle standing alone in the dark. Its flame flickers steady and bright. That candle doesn't need another candle to prove it has light. Now imagine another candle being placed beside it. The two flames dance together, creating a greater brilliance. But even if one flame were to go out, the other would still shine. That's what true twin flame union should be. Two complete beings already whole on their own, standing side by side. Not one flame trying to survive off the other. Turning the question back to you. So I'll ask you directly. When was the last time you felt truly alive without your twin flame? When was the last time you did something purely for yourself, not for their attention or approval? When was the last time you looked in the mirror and said, I am enough, exactly as I am, and actually believed it? If the answers to those questions make you uncomfortable, that's not a bad thing. That discomfort is the mirror, showing you exactly where the work begins, setting the stage for growth. This first chapter is not about giving you all the solutions. It's about planting the seed, the realization that dependency is not love, and losing yourself is not the purpose of this journey. Because the twin flame path is sacred. It is not about clinging. It is about transforming. It is about becoming so whole within yourself that the connection no longer feels like a lifeline, it feels like a celebration. So remember the opening question. If your twin flame disappeared tomorrow, who would you be? The journey of this video and this entire series is about making sure your answer will always be, I would still be me, whole, complete, enough. Chapter 2. What does dependency really mean in the twin flame journey? When people hear the word dependency, their first thought is often about addiction, alcohol, substances, maybe even unhealthy relationships. But what if I told you that dependency can hide in the most romantic, spiritual, and seemingly sacred experiences, like your twin flame connection? It may not look like addiction in the traditional sense, but in reality, it's the same pattern, placing your sense of wholeness, stability, and happiness outside of yourself. And in the twin flame journey, this dependency can become so subtle, so disguised as devotion, that you don't even realize you're trapped. The subtle prison of twin flame dependency. Dependency begins when your emotional weather is controlled not by the seasons of your own heart, but by the unpredictable climate of another person. Think about it. They text you and your spirit soars. They go silent and your soul crashes. They look at you with love and you feel infinite. They pull away and you feel worthless. Does that sound familiar? It's like giving someone else the keys to your inner kingdom. You become a puppet, and the strings are attached to their every move. This isn't love. It's not even connection. It's self-abandonment disguised as romance. The difference between love and dependency. Here's the thing. Love and dependency can look very similar from the outside. Both involve intense emotions, deep attachment, and longing for closeness. But their foundations are completely different. Love says, I see you, I honor you, and I choose to share my wholeness with you. Dependency says, without you, I am nothing. I need you to feel alive or I will collapse. One is expansive. The other is suffocating. One creates freedom. The other creates chains. And if you are on a twin flame journey, this distinction becomes crucial, because the universe didn't orchestrate this meeting for you to lose yourself. It orchestrated it for you to rediscover yourself. Common faces of dependency in twin flames. Let's get practical. How does dependency actually show up in day-to-day life on this path? Here are some of the most common faces. Emotional roller coaster living. Your self-worth rises and falls based on their actions. One moment you're floating in bliss because of a small sign from them. The next you're drowning in despair when they don't respond. Constant monitoring. Checking their social media every hour. Reading into every photo, every status update, every word. Feeling like detectives instead of lovers. Self-abandonment. Giving up hobbies, passions, or friendships because you think, what's the point if my twin flame isn't part of it? Slowly erasing parts of your identity to revolve entirely around them. Fear-based decisions. Saying yes when you mean no because you're terrified they'll leave. Lowering your boundaries just to keep the connection alive. Spiritual bypassing. Justifying toxic dynamics with phrases like, it's part of the journey or this pain means growth. Confusing suffering with destiny. Each of these patterns may feel normal in the heat of passion, But if you take a step back, you'll realize they are signs of dependency, not divine union. The root of dependency, inner wounds. So why do we fall into these patterns in the first place? Why is dependency so magnetic, especially with a twin flame? The answer lies not in the connection itself, but in the wounds it triggers. Most of us carry unhealed layers from childhood. The fear of abandonment when a parent was emotionally distant. The hunger for validation because love was given only when we performed. The belief that we are not enough unless someone else tells us so. When a twin flame enters our lives, the intensity of the bond acts like a spotlight. It illuminates these old wounds, dragging them from the shadows into the open. Suddenly, we're not just loving, we're reliving every wound we thought we buried. And what happens when you relive those wounds without awareness? You cling. You depend. You make your twin flame responsible for healing what was always your responsibility. The illusion of losing yourself for love. Society loves to romanticize sacrifice. We've all heard lines like, "I can't live without you. You're my everything. I would die if you ever left me." In songs and movies, these words sound beautiful, but in reality, they are the vocabulary of dependency. Because here's the hard truth. If your love story requires you to lose yourself, it isn't love, it's surrendering your power. Ask yourself, is it really divine love if it costs you your identity? Or is it fear dressed in poetry? The cost of dependency. Dependency doesn't just take away your peace. It has long-term consequences on the twin flame path. Energetic imbalance. When one person carries the role of savior and the other plays the helpless dependent, the bond becomes distorted. Delayed union. True union requires two whole beings. Dependency keeps you stuck in cycles of running and chasing. Loss of self. Over time, you no longer know who you are outside of the connection. Your light dims instead of growing. The tragic irony is that the more dependent you become, the further you drift from the very union you crave. Breaking the spell. Awareness as the first step. The good news? Dependency is not a life sentence. It's a signal, a wake-up call. The fact that you can recognize it means you've already begun the process of reclaiming your wholeness. Ask yourself, where am I abandoning myself in this connection? What parts of my identity have I erased for their sake? Am I loving them, or am I just fearing life without them? These questions are uncomfortable, yes, but they are the doorway to freedom, because awareness cracks the illusion. And once you see the prison, you can choose to step outside of it. A story of awakening. Let me share an example. There was a woman who met her twin flame in her early 30s. The connection was explosive, undeniable. She found herself checking his every move online, waiting hours by the phone, losing sleep just to feel close to him. She stopped painting, something she had loved for years, because her mind was consumed by him. When he pulled away, she broke down completely. She felt empty, worthless, abandoned. But then in the silence, she started to hear another voice. Her own. It whispered, "I miss painting." She picked up the brush again. Slowly, her canvas filled with colors. And with every stroke, she remembered, "I am more than this connection. I am an artist. I am alive." Months later, when her twin flame returned, something had shifted. She wasn't waiting by the phone anymore. She wasn't begging for his attention. She was standing in her wholeness, and the connection was lighter, freer. That's what happens when you break the chains of dependency. You don't lose the connection, you elevate it. Looking ahead. Dependency is not the villain, it is the teacher. It shows you where you've abandoned yourself and invites you back home. And that's the essence of Chapter 2, to recognize dependency not as proof of love, but as a signpost pointing you to deeper healing. Because until you see this clearly, the twin flame path will feel like a battlefield. But once you recognize it, you can transform it into a sanctuary of growth. In the next chapter, we'll dive even deeper into the truth that twin flames are not here for you to lose yourself, but to help you return to your wholeness. Chapter 3. The truth. Twin flames are not here to break you, but to make you whole. Close your eyes for a moment and remember the first time you felt the presence of your twin flame. Maybe it was in person, maybe it was online, or maybe it was that strange déjà vu when your souls seemed to recognize each other long before your minds could explain it. Your heart raced. Your soul whispered, "This is it. This is the one." The intensity was undeniable. The connection was electric. But along with the fire came the confusion, the chaos, the vulnerability, and for many the fear. You may have asked yourself, why would the universe bring me someone who makes me feel both so complete and so broken? The answer is simpler and deeper than most people realize. Your twin flame did not come to break you. They came to show you where you are already broken, so you can heal and return to your natural wholeness. The great misunderstanding. One of the greatest misconceptions about twin flames is that they are meant to complete us. We've been conditioned by culture, movies, and even poetry to believe in the idea of the missing half, that there is someone out there holding the part of us that we lack, that without them we are unfinished, incomplete, unworthy. But here's the truth. You were never half a soul. You were never born broken. The idea of incompleteness is a wound of perception, not of reality. So when your twin flame arrives, they don't actually complete you. They reveal to you the illusion that you were ever incomplete. They trigger the wounds, the fears, and the shadows that kept you from seeing the truth of your wholeness. The mirror principle. Think of your twin flame as a sacred mirror. When you stand before them, you don't just see their face, you see yourself. You see your light, yes, but you also see your shadows. You see your wounds reflected back with startling clarity. If you carry abandonment issues, their distance will trigger that fear. If you struggle with self-worth, their rejection will magnify it. If you've avoided facing your pain, their presence will drag it to the surface. This is why the journey can feel so unbearable. It's not because your twin flame is here to hurt you. It's because they shine a light so bright that you can no longer hide from yourself. So the question becomes, will you use that mirror to criticize yourself or to heal yourself? Why it feels like they're breaking you. If twin flames are here to help us return to wholeness, why does it feel so painful? Why does it sometimes feel like they are the very ones breaking us apart? Here's why. Before something can be healed, it must first be revealed. Think of a bone that has been broken but never properly set. On the surface it may look fine, but the moment you put pressure on it, the weakness is exposed. That exposure may feel like breaking, but in truth, it's the beginning of real healing. Your twin flame applies that pressure. They don't break the bone. They reveal where it was already fragile. And by doing so, they create the opportunity for it to be healed stronger than before. The higher purpose of the trigger. Every trigger on the twin flame path is a teacher in disguise. When they pull away, the lesson is not you are unworthy. The lesson is, learn to anchor your worth in yourself. When they mirror your shadows, the lesson is not, you are too broken to be loved. The lesson is, see where love still needs to enter. Within you. When they ignite your fears, the lesson is not love is unsafe. The lesson is, face the fear so you can finally set yourself free. This is why twin flame separation exists. Not as punishment, not as cruelty, but as sacred space for growth. Because in that space you are forced to turn inward, to reclaim the pieces of yourself you abandoned long ago. Rhetorical. Reflection. Ask yourself, would you have faced your deepest fears if your twin flame hadn't triggered them? Would you have learned to stand in your power if their silence hadn't pushed you to? Would you have discovered your wholeness if they had simply handed you comfort without challenge? The truth is, the twin flame journey is not about comfort. It's about transformation. And transformation requires friction. A story of transformation. Let's look at an example. There was a man who had always feared abandonment. His mother left when he was young, and that wound followed him into adulthood. When he met his twin flame, it was love at first sight. But as soon as the relationship deepened, his twin flame began to pull away. He was devastated. He begged. He pleaded, he clung. But the more he clung, the more she withdrew. His worst nightmare had come true, being abandoned again. First he thought she was cruel. He blamed her for his suffering. But eventually, in the silence of separation, he realized something profound. His fear of abandonment wasn't created by her. It was revealed by her. For the first time, he stopped chasing. Instead, he sat with his fear. He held the little boy inside him who had once been left behind. He gave himself the love he had always sought outside. Months later, when they reconnected, the energy had shifted. He wasn't desperate anymore. He wasn't clinging. He was standing in his own wholeness. And from that place, the love between them was freer, lighter, and more genuine than ever before. This is the essence of the twin flame path. They don't come to break you. They come to make you face what is already broken, so you can heal and rise. From dependency to wholeness. Once you see this truth, dependency begins to dissolve. Instead of saying, I need my twin flame to feel complete, you begin to say, I thank my twin flame for showing me where I forgot my own completeness. Instead of clinging to their presence, you use their absence as a catalyst to return to yourself. Instead of blaming them for your wounds, you thank them for illuminating the path to healing. This doesn't mean the pain disappears overnight, but it transforms. It becomes purposeful. It becomes sacred. The reframing question. So here's a new question to carry with you. Not why is my twin flame breaking me? But what is my twin flame showing me about myself that I am now ready to heal? That single shift in perspective can turn despair into empowerment and suffering into transformation. Because in truth, your twin flame was never sent to be your savior or your destroyer. They were sent to be your mirror. And through that mirror, you are invited to remember the wholeness that has always been yours. The takeaway. So let this truth sink in. You are not half a soul searching for your missing piece. You are a whole being, invited to heal the illusions of incompleteness. Your twin flame does not come to complete you or to break you. They come to awaken you. When you embrace this, the journey shifts from obsession to liberation. You stop clinging to them as your lifeline, and you start walking beside them as your equal. And from that place, true union, whether physical or spiritual, becomes possible. Chapter 4. The red flags, signs you're falling into dependency with your twin flame. Let's be honest. Dependency on your twin flame doesn't announce itself with a flashing neon sign that says, warning, you're losing yourself. It creeps in quietly. It disguises itself as love, devotion, and even spiritual destiny. But if we don't recognize the red flags early, dependency can grow like a vine, wrapping tighter and tighter around your soul until you can't tell where you end and where they begin. So how do you know if you're falling into this trap? Let's uncover the signs layer by layer. Sign 1. Your emotions live and die by their actions. Picture this. You wake up, check your phone, and see a message from your twin flame. Suddenly, the world feels brighter. You're energized, smiling, unstoppable. But the next day, silence. No message. No reply. And just like that, your mood plummets. Anxiety takes over. You replay old conversations in your head, searching for clues. Sound familiar? This is the emotional roller coaster of dependency. It's not that feeling joy when they reach out is wrong. It becomes dangerous when your entire sense of peace depends on their behavior. Rhetorical question: if one person has the power to control your entire emotional climate, who is really living your life, you or them? Sign 2. Constant monitoring and obsession. You tell yourself you're just curious. You just want to know how they're doing. But suddenly you realize you've checked their social media 3 times in 1 hour. You're analyzing every photo they post, every song lyric they share, every emoji they use. You're scrolling through the comments wondering, who liked this? Who are they talking to? This isn't connection, it's surveillance. And what it reveals is a deeper fear. The fear of losing control. Dependency whispers, if I just watch closely enough, maybe I can predict what they'll do. Maybe I can prevent them from leaving. But here's the truth. No amount of monitoring can secure love. All it does is drain your energy and deepen your anxiety. Sign 3. Abandoning your own passions. Think back to the things that once lit up your soul. Maybe it was painting, playing guitar, traveling, reading, dancing, or simply spending time with friends. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you did those things with genuine joy, without checking your phone for their response, without wishing they were there? Dependency slowly erodes your identity. You stop pursuing what makes you unique. Your world begins to shrink until the only thing that matters is them. Rhetorical reflection. If you erase your own passions for the sake of the connection, what exactly are you bringing to the table when you're together? Sign 4, fear-based choices and weak. Boundaries. Love thrives on freedom. Dependency thrives on fear. Here's what fear-based choices look like. Saying yes to things you don't want just to keep them happy. Avoiding difficult conversations because you're terrified they'll walk away. Allowing behavior that crosses your boundaries because you don't want to scare them off. These are not acts of love. They're acts of self-abandonment. And every time you betray your boundaries, you reinforce the belief that their love is worth more than your self-respect. Sign 5. Confusing pain with destiny. This is one of the trickiest traps on the twin flame path. When the connection feels unbearable, when the tears won't stop, when the heartbreak feels endless, dependency convinces you that the suffering itself is proof of destiny. It hurts this much, so it must be true love. The harder the struggle, the stronger the bond. But here's the reality. Pain can be a teacher, but it is not proof of love. Just because something hurts doesn't mean it's holy. The true purpose of pain in the twin flame journey is to point you back to yourself, to show you what still needs healing, not to glorify suffering as sacred. The cumulative effect. Individually, each of these signs may not seem alarming, but together they create a dangerous cycle. You become emotionally unstable. Sign 1. You obsessively monitor them. Sign 2. You abandon your own identity. Sign 3. You weaken your boundaries. Sign 4. You justify the pain as destiny. Sign 5. And before you know it, your twin flame journey stops being about love and transformation. It becomes a story of obsession, fear, and self-erasure. A story of realization. Let me illustrate with a story. There was a young woman who met her twin flame in college. The connection was magnetic, undeniable. But slowly she started to lose herself. She stopped hanging out with her friends. She quit the poetry club she once loved. She spent every evening waiting by her phone, refreshing his Instagram feed, analyzing every little thing he posted. When he pulled away, she panicked. She said yes to things that made her uncomfortable, lowered her standards, even tolerated lies just to keep him close. The breaking point came when a friend asked her, "Who are you without him?" And she couldn't answer. That silence was the wake-up call. She realized she had become dependent. She had abandoned her own fire. Slowly, she began to reclaim herself. She went back to writing poetry. She reconnected with friends. She stopped checking his phone every hour. And with each step she remembered, she was whole before him, and she would be whole after him. The power of recognition. Here's the good news. Recognizing the signs of dependency is not a defeat, it's liberation. When you see these patterns clearly, you can begin to shift them. You can ask, what part of me feels unsafe without them? What am I afraid to face in the silence? What passions, dreams, and joys have I abandoned, and how can I reclaim them? These questions transform dependency into a doorway. They turn red flags into signposts pointing back to your healing, moving forward. So let's be clear. Noticing these signs does not mean you've failed on your twin flame journey. It means you're awake. Because the journey isn't about never stumbling into dependency, it's about noticing when you do, and choosing to return to yourself. And that is the invitation of this chapter, to become brutally honest with yourself, to recognize the signs of dependency and to use them as mirrors instead of prisons. Because once you see the truth, you're no longer a victim of the cycle. You become the conscious creator of your path. Closing. Reflection. So ask yourself tonight, before you go to sleep, am I waiting for them to validate me, or am I standing in my own worth? Am I living my life, or am I living theirs? Am I loving from wholeness or from fear? The answers may surprise you. They may even sting. But they will also set you free. And remember, your twin flame did not come to make you dependent. They came to show you the parts of yourself you've abandoned, so you can reclaim them and return to your wholeness. Chapter 5. The Hidden Roots of Dependency. Childhood wounds, fear, and forgotten self-love. Dependency doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It's not a flaw in your character, and it's not proof that you're weak. It has roots, deep tangled roots that often reach back further than your twin flame connection, further even than your adult relationships. To truly free yourself from dependency, you can't just cut off the branches. You must go down into the soil, into the hidden roots, and see what has been feeding this cycle all along. Childhood wounds, the silent architects of dependency. Many of the patterns we play out with our twin flames were written long before we ever met them. They were written in childhood, in the way we were loved, neglected, seen, or ignored. If you grew up with parents who were emotionally unavailable, you may have learned that love equals chasing. If you had to perform, get good grades, behave perfectly, or take care of others to earn affection, you may have internalized the belief that love is conditional. If you were abandoned, whether physically or emotionally, you may have learned that people always leave, and you must cling to them for survival. These lessons become invisible scripts, and when your twin flame arrives, the intensity of the connection presses play on those old recordings. Suddenly, you're not just relating to your twin flame, you're reliving your childhood story. The fear of abandonment. The heart of most dependency lies one primal wound. The fear of abandonment. This fear whispers, if they leave, I will fall apart. It convinces you that your survival depends on their presence. That's why separation on the twin flame path feels so unbearable. It's not just about missing them. It's about activating a much older fear. The child within you, who once felt alone or unseen, rises to the surface, and that child clings because clinging once felt like survival. The myth of not enough. Another root of dependency is the belief that you are not enough as you are. Not attractive enough. Not successful enough. Not spiritual enough. Not lovable enough. This belief can form in childhood when love was withheld, criticized, or tied to achievement. And once internalized, it becomes the lens through which you see every relationship. So when your twin flame appears, instead of celebrating the connection, you may secretly think, finally, someone who makes me enough. But this belief is a trap. Because if someone else is the source of your worth, you'll do anything to keep them, even at the cost of yourself. Lack of self-love. The deepest wound of all. Every root of dependency leads back to one central truth. A lack of self-love. When you don't love yourself, you outsource love. You make others responsible for filling the void inside. And while this is true in any relationship, it becomes magnified in the twin flame journey because the intensity is so overwhelming. Feels cosmic. Feels destined. So when your twin flame withdraws, it doesn't just feel like rejection. It feels like the universe itself has abandoned you. But here's the paradox. The very pain of this lack is what forces you to finally confront it. Your twin flame shows you the mirror of your own neglect, pushing you to ask, what would it look like if I gave myself the love I've always demanded from others? A story from the shadows. Let me share an example. There was a man who had always struggled with feelings of inadequacy. As a child, his father was critical, and nothing he did ever felt good enough. When he met his twin flame, he felt an overwhelming sense of recognition, as if she finally saw the parts of him no one else had. But soon dependency took over. Every silence felt like rejection. Every delay in response felt like confirmation of his deepest fear. I'm not good enough. He became consumed, texting her constantly, apologizing for things he hadn't even done, trying desperately to keep her close. Eventually she pulled away, overwhelmed, and he was left broken, drowning in old pain. But in the silence, he began to realize something. His twin flame wasn't the cause of his pain. She was the mirror. She had triggered wounds that had lived in him since childhood. Wounds that whispered, "You're not enough." Slowly, he began to turn inward. He started therapy. He wrote letters to his younger self, offering the compassion he had never received. He practiced affirmations not to please her, but to rewire his own mind. And with time, the grip of dependency loosened. He realized that he was enough, not because she validated him, but because he chose to believe it himself. The healing invitation. Dependency is painful, yes, but it is also sacred because it points you back to the work that must be done. When you feel the urge to cling, it's an invitation to ask, what part of me is terrified right now? What part of me believes I can't survive without them? When you feel unworthy, it's an invitation to affirm, I am already enough, with or without this connection. When you feel abandoned, it's an invitation to hold your inner child to reassure them, you are safe. I will not leave you again. Rhetorical reflections. So ask yourself, are you truly in love with your twin flame, or are you in love with the way they temporarily silence your old wounds? When you cling to them, are you reaching for them, or for the parent, the validation, the love you never received in childhood? And if that's true, what would happen if you started giving those things to yourself right here, right now? The path forward. Understanding the roots of dependency doesn't mean the pain disappears overnight. But it does mean you stop blaming your twin flame. You stop seeing them as the problem, and you start seeing them as the catalyst. They didn't create your wounds, they revealed them. And once revealed, you have a choice. Continue the cycle or begin the healing. Because the truth is this: no one else can heal the fear of abandonment for you. No one else can make you feel enough. No one else can give you the self-love you've denied yourself. That is your work. That is your path. That is your liberation. Closing reflection. So remember, childhood wounds write the scripts of dependency. The fear of abandonment fuels the chase. The belief of not enough feeds the obsession. And the lack of self-love keeps the cycle alive. But every one of these roots can be healed. And the twin flame journey, as painful as it may be, is the divine opportunity to finally face them. Because in the end, your twin flame is not here to fill the void. They are here to show you where the void exists so you can fill it with your own love, your own wholeness, your own truth. Chapter 6. The Lesson of Wholeness. Standing complete in yourself. Wholeness. It's a word we hear often, especially on the twin flame path. People say things like, you must be whole before union, or union begins within. But what does that actually mean? What does it look like to be whole within yourself? Is it about being perfectly healed, with no wounds left to face? Is it about never needing anyone, never craving connection again? Or is it something deeper, something far more human and spiritual? Let's unfold this lesson of wholeness layer by layer. Wholeness is not perfection. First, let's clear up a misconception. Wholeness is not perfection. If wholeness meant being flawless, no twin flame union would ever happen. Because none of us are flawless. We are human. We carry scars, traumas, imperfections, contradictions. Wholeness does not mean having no wounds. It means owning your wounds without letting them own you. It means saying, yes, I am scarred, but I am still complete. Yes, I have shadows, but I am still light. Wholeness is not about erasing your humanity. It's about embracing it. Wholeness is not isolation. Another misconception is that being whole means being entirely self-sufficient, never needing love, never depending on anyone. But let's be real. Humans are relational beings. We need connection. We thrive in community. We are wired for love. Wholeness doesn't mean shutting your heart. It means keeping your heart open without losing yourself. It means choosing connection from a place of fullness, not desperation. Think of it like this: two whole people can come together and create a love that expands. Two half-empty people come together and drain each other dry. Wholeness is the end of the chase. On the twin flame journey, many people fall into the endless chase. Chasing love, chasing validation, chasing the other half of their soul. Wholeness is the moment you stop chasing. Not because you've given up, but because you realize what you were chasing was never outside of you, it was always inside. The love you crave is within. The safety you seek is within. The home you long for is within. When you touch that inner truth, the need to chase dissolves. And ironically, that's often when reunion becomes possible, because you no longer cling with desperation. The candle metaphor revisited. Remember the candle metaphor from earlier chapters? A candle does not need another candle to prove it has light. It shines because shining is its nature. When two candles come together, the light is brighter. But if one flame goes out, the other still burns. That is wholeness. You don't need your twin flame to prove you exist, to validate your worth, or to ignite your fire. You shine because you are a flame in your own right. A practical picture of wholeness. So what does wholeness look like in daily life? Emotional balance. Your mood no longer rises and falls entirely by your twin flame's actions. You feel joy in your own presence. Healthy boundaries. You can say no without fear of abandonment. You know your needs matter. Self-expression. You return to your passions: painting, writing, dancing, building, exploring, without waiting for their approval. Inner dialogue. The voice inside your head shifts from, I'm not enough to, I am worthy, I am loved, I am whole. Sacred stillness. You can sit in silence without them and not feel empty. You feel connected to yourself, to source, to life itself. Wholeness is not about never missing them. It's about knowing that missing them doesn't destroy you. A story of transformation. Let me share a story. There was a woman who spent years in the runner-chaser cycle with her twin flame. Every time he pulled away, she spiraled into despair. She begged, she pleaded, she lost herself. One day, after yet another separation, she decided she couldn't keep living like this. She turned inward. She began meditating. She journaled every day, pouring her wounds onto the page. She rejoined her old dance class, something she had abandoned years ago. She traveled alone, discovering parts of herself she had forgotten. And slowly something shifted. She no longer woke up wondering if he would text. She no longer needed his validation to feel beautiful. She was dancing again, smiling again, alive again. Months later, when he returned, the energy between them was completely different. She wasn't chasing anymore. She wasn't clinging. She was whole. And because she was whole, their connection became lighter, freer, deeper. She no longer loved from fear. She loved from fullness. Why wholeness is essential for union. Here's the universal truth. True twin flame union can only exist between two whole beings. If one is dependent and the other is whole, imbalance occurs. The dependent one clings, the whole one pulls away. The cycle repeats. But when both stand in their wholeness, the connection becomes an act of choice, not survival. They don't come together to fix each other. They come together to celebrate each other. That's why separation often lasts until both reach a place of wholeness within themselves. The universe doesn't withhold reunion as punishment. It withholds it until the foundation is strong enough to hold it. The deeper spiritual dimension. On a soul level, wholeness is remembering your true essence. You are not incomplete. You are not broken. You are not half a soul wandering the earth. You are a spark of the divine. You are light. You are whole. Your twin flame does not complete you. They awaken you to the truth that you have always been complete. And once you see this, you begin to live differently. You stop grasping for external validation. You stop fearing separation. You start living from your core. That is the true lesson of wholeness. Rhetorical reflections. So I ask you, are you waiting for your twin flame to hand you the love you could be giving yourself? Are you searching for completion outside while ignoring the completeness already within? And if you chose to believe right now that you are already whole, how would that change the way you show up in this connection? Closing inspiration. The path to wholeness is not easy. It asks you to face your shadows, heal your wounds, reclaim your passions, and love yourself fiercely. But it is the path to freedom, not just in your twin flame journey, but in every aspect of your life. Because when you are whole, you stop begging for scraps of love. You start radiating love. You stop chasing. You start attracting. You stop fearing. You start trusting. And from that place, your twin flame connection becomes what it was always meant to be. Not a crutch, but a celebration. Not a prison, but a dance. So remember this truth. You were whole before you met them. You are whole now, and you will remain whole, no matter what. Chapter 7. Strategies to maintain wholeness in the twin flame journey. Wholeness isn't just an idea. It's not just a spiritual slogan you post on social media. It's a daily practice. A way of living that keeps you rooted in yourself, even in the storm of twin flame dynamics. Because let's be honest, the energy of this connection is intense. One moment it feels like heaven, the next it feels like chaos. Without grounding practices, it's easy to lose yourself, to drift back into dependency, to forget your own light. So in this chapter, we'll explore real, tangible strategies to help you maintain wholeness. Not theories, but practices you can weave into your life starting today. Strategy 1. Meditation. Returning to your center. Meditation is not about silencing your thoughts. It's about returning to your center. When you sit in meditation, you step out of the roller coaster of your twin flame's actions. You remind yourself that peace is always available, here and now, regardless of what they're doing or not doing. Even 5 minutes a day can shift your energy. Try this simple practice. Close your eyes. Place your hand on your heart. Breathe slowly and deeply. Repeat, I am whole. I am safe. I am love. Every breath is a reminder. Your home is within you. Rhetorical reflection. If peace is available inside you, why wait for someone else to hand it to you? Strategy 2. Journaling, the mirror of your soul. The twin flame journey often stirs emotions so powerful they feel overwhelming. Journaling gives those emotions a safe container. Write about your fears. Write about your longings. Write about the pain of separation and the joy of union. Don't censor yourself. Let the words spill onto the page. Over time, journaling becomes a mirror. You'll start to notice patterns. You'll see where your wounds are, where you abandon yourself, where you grow. One powerful exercise is the letter to self practice. Write to the part of you that feels abandoned or unworthy. Offer them the love and reassurance you often demand from your twin flame. Because sometimes the words you ache to hear from them are the very words you need to say to yourself. Strategy 3. Boundaries, the guardrails of wholeness. Wholeness cannot survive without boundaries. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are guardrails that keep you safe inside your own energy. They ensure that love flows with respect, not with violation. Ask yourself, where do I say yes when I mean no? Where do I allow behavior that disrespects my worth? Where am I afraid to speak my truth? Setting boundaries may feel scary at first. You may worry your twin flame will leave if you say no. But here's the truth. If love cannot respect your boundaries, it isn't love, it's control. Wholeness thrives when you protect it. Strategy 4. Reclaiming your passions. Remember the hobbies, dreams, and passions that once lit you up? The ones you may have abandoned because all your energy went into the connection? It's time to reclaim them. Dance again. Paint again. Write again. Travel again. Build, create, explore again. Because every time you do, you remind yourself, I am more than this connection. I have a life, a soul, a purpose. And here's the paradox. When you live fully, you actually strengthen the connection. Because your twin flame is attracted not to your emptiness but to your radiance. Strategy 5. Daily self-care rituals. Wholeness is built in small, consistent acts of self-care. Move your body, yoga, walking, exercise. Nourish yourself. Eat foods that give you energy, not drain you. Rest. Honor your need for sleep and downtime. Nature. Spend time outside, grounding your energy with the earth. These rituals may seem simple, but they are profound, because they send a message to your subconscious. I matter. My body, my mind, my spirit deserve care. When you consistently show up for yourself, you stop begging others to show up for you. Strategy 6. Spiritual anchors. The twin flame journey is not just emotional, it's spiritual. Without spiritual anchors, the storm can sweep you away. Find practices that connect you to something greater. Prayer, reading sacred texts, breath work, energy healing, gratitude rituals. When you align with Source, you remember your twin flame is not the source of your wholeness. Spirit is, and spirit is always with you. Strategy 7. Community and support. One of the dangers of the twin flame path is isolation. Because the experience is so unique, many feel nobody else can understand. But you don't have to carry it alone. Find safe spaces, friends, mentors, communities where you can share openly. Support helps you maintain perspective. It reminds you that while your connection is unique, your struggles are human. And in that humanity, you are not alone. A story of renewal. Let me share an example. There was a woman who spiraled into dependency during her twin flame separation. She stopped eating well, stopped painting, stopped caring for herself. Every day she waited by her phone, hoping for a message. One morning, exhausted, she looked in the mirror and didn't recognize herself. That moment became her turning point. She began small, 5 minutes of meditation, a short walk in nature, a single line in her journal. Over weeks, those small practices grew. She started painting again. She cooked nourishing meals. She reconnected with friends. And slowly, she felt her wholeness return. She realized she was no longer living for his text, she was living for herself. When he eventually reached out, she was different, radiant, whole. And because she stood in her wholeness, the dynamic between them transformed. The discipline of wholeness. Maintaining wholeness is not a one-time achievement. It's a discipline. Yes, there will be days when you slip. Days when the old patterns pull you back into obsession or fear. But wholeness is not about never slipping. It's about choosing to return, again and again, to yourself. Every meditation, every boundary, every act of self-care is like a brick in the foundation of your wholeness. And over time, that foundation becomes unshakable. Rhetorical closing. So ask yourself, what practices anchor me when the storm of this connection rages? What passions have I abandoned that are waiting for me to return? What daily rituals can I commit to, not for them but for me? Because in the end, your twin flame journey is not about losing yourself in another. It's about finding yourself so deeply that even the wildest love cannot shake your center. Closing inspiration. The strategies in this chapter are not just tools, they are lifelines. They remind you daily that you are already whole, already enough, already radiant. And when you live from that truth, your twin flame connection transforms. It stops being a battlefield of dependency and becomes a sacred space of freedom, balance, and joy. So begin today. Meditate, journal, set boundaries, dance, care for yourself, connect with spirit, build community. Because every step you take toward your own wholeness is a step toward the highest version of your twin flame journey. Chapter 8. When you love yourself deeply, you no longer fear losing your twin flame. Fear of loss is one of the strongest emotions on the twin flame path. It can feel like a shadow hovering over every interaction. What if they leave? What if they never come back? What if this is all an illusion? That fear drives chasing. It fuels anxiety. It keeps you trapped in cycles of dependency. But here's the liberating truth. Once you truly love yourself, that fear begins to dissolve. Because when you are anchored in your own love, you realize that losing them does not mean losing yourself. Why fear of loss feels so intense? The twin flame bond isn't like any ordinary relationship. The intensity is otherworldly. It feels eternal, destined, cosmic. So when separation happens, or even the threat of it, the fear cuts deep. Feels like losing oxygen. Like losing the very reason for your existence. But let's pause for a moment. Is that feeling really about them? Or is it about you? The truth is, most of the fear is not about losing your twin flame. It's about losing the part of yourself you believe only they can give you. The paradox of attachment. Here lies the paradox. The more you cling out of fear, the more the connection slips through your fingers. Why? Because fear creates resistance. Clinging creates imbalance. Instead of love flowing freely, it gets tangled in desperation. It's like holding water in your hands. If you clutch too tightly, it spills out. But if you open your palms, the water rests gently, peacefully. Self-love is the open palm. Fear is the clenched fist. Loving yourself as the antidote. When you begin to love yourself deeply, everything changes. You no longer seek their approval as your source of worth. You no longer need their presence to feel complete. You no longer fear their absence, because you know you will still stand whole. Self-love doesn't mean you stop caring about them. It means you stop attaching your survival to them. It transforms the connection from fear-based to love-based. What self-love looks like in practice. Self-love is not just a feeling. It's a practice. It looks like speaking to yourself with kindness instead of criticism, taking care of your body, mind, and spirit as if they are sacred, pursuing your passions, dreams, and joys, regardless of whether your twin flame is by your side, refusing to betray your boundaries for the sake of keeping someone close. When you live this way, you create a foundation so strong that the fear of loss begins to fade. Because you know you will never lose the most important person, yourself. A story of self-love in action. Let's illustrate with a story. There was a woman who spent years fearing her twin flame's absence. Every time he pulled away, she panicked. She begged him to stay, lowered her standards, and tolerated behavior that hurt her, just to avoid being left behind. But one day, after another painful separation, she decided to do something radical. She chose herself. She started therapy. She practiced daily affirmations. She reconnected with her love for painting and opened a small art studio. She created a morning ritual of journaling and meditation. anchoring her energy before she even checked her phone. And slowly something shifted. She realized she wasn't waking up with the same fear anymore. She no longer needed his text to feel worthy. She didn't panic when days went by without hearing from him. Did she still love him? Absolutely. But now her love was rooted in choice, not in fear. And when he eventually returned, he found a different woman. Radiant, grounded, whole. She was no longer clinging. She was simply shining. The liberation of letting go of fear. When you no longer fear losing your twin flame, you gain something priceless: freedom. Freedom to love without clinging. Freedom to enjoy the present moment without obsessing over the future. Freedom to be fully yourself without twisting into knots to keep them happy. Ironically, this freedom often strengthens the connection, because love thrives in openness, not in fear. When you release the grip, love can finally breathe. Rhetorical reflections. Ask yourself, what am I truly afraid of losing, my twin flame, or the sense of worth I think they give me? If I loved myself deeply, would I still fear their absence so much? How would I show up differently if I knew my wholeness could never be taken away? These are not easy questions, but they open the door to liberation, the spiritual dimension of fearlessness. On a deeper spiritual level, the fear of losing your twin flame comes from forgetting the eternal truth. Your souls are never separate. Yes, the physical relationship may ebb and flow, but the soul connection cannot be broken. It exists beyond time, beyond distance, beyond circumstance. So when you remember this truth, and when you anchor yourself in self-love, you stop fearing the temporary. You rest in the eternal. You realize, even if they walk away in this lifetime, the love is not gone. And you remain whole because your soul was never missing a piece. The ripple effect of self-love. When you love yourself, the fear of loss dissolves, and something else takes its place. Empowerment. You stop tolerating less than you deserve. You attract healthier dynamics, not just with your twin flame but with everyone. You inspire others, your twin flame included, to rise into their own wholeness. Your self-love becomes a lighthouse. It doesn't beg ships to come to shore. It simply shines, and those meant to align with it are drawn naturally. Closing inspiration. So here's the shift. When you don't love yourself, every silence feels like abandonment. When you love yourself, every silence becomes sacred space to deepen your own light. When you don't love yourself, you fear losing them. When you love yourself, you realize you can never truly lose because you already have everything within. That's the secret. That's the liberation. That's the turning point of the twin flame journey. The day you love yourself so deeply that fear no longer rules your heart. Chapter 9. From Dependency to Wholeness. A story of transformation. Stories have a way of reaching us in ways theory never can. We can talk endlessly about concepts like self-love, wholeness, and freedom, but when you see those truths lived out in someone's life, they hit differently. So in this chapter, I want to share with you the journey of one person who walked the twin flame path, stumbled into deep dependency, and then transformed themselves into a being of wholeness. It's not just their story. It's a mirror for what's possible in your story too. The beginning. The magnetic pull. Her name was Maya. When Maya first met her twin flame, it was like lightning struck. She described it as falling into recognition rather than falling in love. She had known love before, at least she thought she had, but this was something different. His presence felt like home. His eyes carried a strange familiarity. Conversations flowed effortlessly, as if they had been speaking across lifetimes. And yet, the intensity also scared her. She found herself addicted to his presence. She couldn't go a day without hearing from him. Her thoughts revolved around him from morning to night. First, she justified it. Of course I think about him all the time. This is destiny. But what she didn't see was that the line between love and dependency was already beginning to blur. The descent into dependency. Soon, the fear of losing him began to dominate. When he texted, she felt euphoric. When hours passed without a reply, she spiraled into panic. She checked his social media constantly, analyzing every post, every like, every comment. Her passions, painting, yoga, volunteering, faded into the background. Friends invited her out, but she often declined, preferring to wait by her phone. Even her work suffered. because her energy was consumed by thoughts of him. She told herself, "This is devotion." But in reality it was dependency. Her self-worth had become tied to his attention. Without him she felt like nothing. The separation that shook her. Then came the inevitable separation. He pulled away. Not with cruelty, but with silence. He needed space and she didn't know how to handle it. For Maya it felt like the ground had been ripped from under her. Nights were sleepless. Tears came daily. She begged the universe for signs. She even prayed, "Please bring him back, I can't live without him." But here's the thing. Separation, as painful as it is, often becomes the doorway to awakening. For Maya, this was the beginning of her transformation. The turning point. Meeting herself. One morning, exhausted from crying, Maya looked in the mirror. What she saw wasn't the vibrant, passionate woman she once was. It was a shadow, tired eyes, drained energy, a life orbiting around someone else's presence. That moment became her turning point. She asked herself a question that pierced her soul. Who am I without him? The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was revealing. She realized she had no answer. She had abandoned herself. And with that realization something shifted. She whispered, "I want to find me again." The path of wholeness. The journey back to wholeness wasn't easy. It wasn't quick. But it was sacred. Meditation. She began sitting quietly each morning, breathing deeply, placing her hand over her heart and affirming, "I am whole. I am love." At first the words felt false. But over weeks they began to sink in. Journaling. She poured her pain onto paper. She wrote letters to him she never sent. She wrote letters to her younger self, offering comfort and reassurance. Through writing she began to see patterns, the same wounds replaying themselves, triggered by this connection. Reclaiming passions. One evening she pulled out her old paints. The first strokes were shaky, but soon the canvas filled with color. With each painting, she felt herself returning. "This is me," she thought. "Not him, not us, just me." Boundaries. When he reached out sporadically, she no longer responded immediately out of desperation. She paused. She asked herself, "Does this align with my worth? Am I responding from fear or from love?" Boundaries became her way of protecting her energy. Community. She joined a local spiritual circle, sharing her experiences with others on similar journeys. For the first time she realized she wasn't crazy or alone. The support gave her strength. The shift in energy. As Maya healed, something incredible happened. The fear of loss began to fade. She still loved him. She still valued the connection. But she no longer felt like her life depended on it. She no longer woke up in panic if her phone was silent. She no longer abandoned her passions just to wait for him. Instead, she woke up excited to paint, to meditate, to live her life. She discovered a joy that was independent of him. She began to shine, not because he lit her up, but because she lit herself up. The reunion transformed. Months later he returned. He reached out, curious about the change he sensed. When they met he was stunned. Gone was the desperate, clinging energy. In its place stood a woman radiant, grounded, whole. She listened calmly, spoke her truth with confidence, and smiled with genuine light. She wasn't chasing. She wasn't clinging. She was simply being. And for the first time their connection felt free. No more push and pull, no more chasing and running. Just two souls standing in their wholeness, choosing each other from a place of freedom. Lessons from Maya's story. Maya's journey teaches us powerful lessons. Dependency is not destiny. Even if you've fallen into it, you can rise out of it. Separation is sacred. It hurts, but it pushes you back to yourself. Wholeness is possible. Through daily practices, boundaries, and self-love, you can rediscover yourself. Fear of loss fades with self-love. When you love yourself, you realize you can never truly lose. Her story is not unique. It's universal. Anyone on the twin flame path can experience this shift if they are willing to turn inward. Rhetorical reflections. So I ask you, are you waiting for your twin flame to validate your worth? Or are you ready to validate yourself? Are you chasing them for love? Or are you ready to give that love to yourself first? What passions have you abandoned? And what would it feel like to reclaim them today? Closing inspiration. Maya's story reminds us that the twin flame journey is not about losing yourself. It's about finding yourself. It's not about clinging to another. It's about remembering your own wholeness. And when you stand in that wholeness, something magical happens. Love becomes lighter. Fear dissolves. And the connection transforms from a battlefield into a dance. So take heart. Even if you feel lost now, even if you are drowning in dependency, remember, transformation is always possible. Wholeness is always waiting. And your twin flame is not here to complete you. They are here to awaken you. Chapter 10. The final message: you were whole all along. The twin flame journey is often described as the most beautiful, painful, transformative experience a soul can have in this lifetime. It stretches you, shatters you, rebuilds you. It forces you to look at your deepest shadows while also reminding you of your greatest light. But as we arrive at this final chapter, let's pause and ask, what has been the central thread through all of this? It is simple yet profound. You were whole all along. Rewinding the journey, think about where we started. Many of us began this path with wide eyes and open hearts, swept into the intensity of meeting our twin flame. It felt like destiny, like a missing piece had finally clicked into place. But quickly the intensity revealed something else: dependency, fear, anxiety, the desperate need for them to validate our worth. And then came separation, the phase we dreaded most, but also the phase that shaped us the most. Because separation forced us to turn inward. It forced us to face our wounds, our childhood fears, our forgotten self-love. Through the pain we discovered the truth. Our twin flame was never here to complete us. They were here to mirror us. They were here to show us the places within that longed for healing. The lesson of wholeness. Wholeness doesn't mean perfection. Doesn't mean you never feel pain. Never miss them, never stumble. Wholeness means you no longer abandon yourself in the process. It means you stand firm in your own worth, even when they are absent. It means your identity, your joy, your radiance are not dependent on their presence. It means you love them not because you need them to survive, but because you choose to share your already full heart. Why losing fear changes everything. When you stand in your wholeness, the fear of loss begins to dissolve. Think about it. What can you truly lose if you already have yourself? If they walk away, you remain. If they go silent, your inner voice still sings. If they run, you are still standing. And when you release the fear, love itself transforms. It becomes lighter, freer, more expansive. No longer a battlefield of running and chasing, but a sacred dance of freedom and choice. The ripple effect of your wholeness. Here's something beautiful. When you embody wholeness, it doesn't just change your twin flame connection. It changes everything. Your friendships deepen because you no longer cling to them for validation. Your family relationships soften because you begin to see through the lens of compassion. Your career or purpose flourishes because you reclaim the passions you once abandoned. Even strangers feel it. You radiate an energy of calm, confidence, and authenticity. Your wholeness becomes a ripple effect, healing not just you, but everyone around you. A metaphor. The garden within. Picture your soul as a garden. For years, you believed your twin flame was the sun, and without them your garden could not grow. So you chased the sun desperately, begging it to stay overhead. But then you discovered something revolutionary. The soil itself held seeds of light. With your own care, your own water, your own devotion, those seeds sprouted. Flowers bloomed. Trees rose tall. And you realized you were never a barren field waiting for someone else's sun. You were a living, breathing garden all along. Your twin flame may bring warmth and beauty when they shine upon you. But even in their absence, your garden thrives because the life force is within you. Rhetorical reflections. So let me ask you, what would it feel like to wake up each day knowing you are already whole? What would change if you stopped chasing and started shining? What would love look like if it came not from fear but from fullness? These are not hypothetical questions. They are invitations. Invitations to step fully into your wholeness right now. The call of the twin flame journey. Many people misunderstand the twin flame path. They think it's about romance, union, or destiny written in the stars. But at its core, it is about awakening. Your twin flame is not your missing half. They are your mirror. They come to awaken you to yourself, to remind you that the love you seek has always been within. And once you embody that truth, you no longer fear losing them, because you know love cannot be lost when it was never outside of you to begin with. A closing story. Let's return briefly to Maya, the woman from chapter 9. When she stood in dependency, her life revolved around fear. Fear of silence. Fear of abandonment. Fear of loss. But when she turned inward, when she began to meditate, journal, paint, and set boundaries, she found something priceless. Herself. And when she found herself, the fear dissolved. She no longer begged, no longer chased. She loved from wholeness, not from lack. Her story is proof of what is possible. And it's not just her story, it can be yours too. So here is the truth I want you to carry with you beyond this video. You are whole. You always were. You always will be. Your twin flame may walk beside you, or they may take their own path. But either way, your light is not diminished. Love them, yes. Cherish them, yes. But do not lose yourself for them. Because the greatest gift you can offer your twin flame is not dependency. It's your wholeness. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to take a step. Today. Not tomorrow. Not when they return. But today. Sit in meditation for 5 minutes and affirm your wholeness. Write in your journal about the parts of yourself you've abandoned, and vow to reclaim them. Revisit a passion you once loved and give yourself permission to enjoy it fully. And then if you found value in this journey, share this video. Subscribe for more reflections on the twin flame path. Leave a comment about your own story of dependency and wholeness, because your voice might be the mirror someone else needs. Remember, this journey is not about finding your other half. It's about remembering that you were whole all along.